When we're young, we have an amazing, positive outlook about how great life is going to be, but somewhere along the line, we forget to dream and end up settling. Join Up Dots features amazing people who refuse to give up and chose to go after their dreams. This is your blueprint for greatness. So here's your host, live from the back of his garden in the UK, David Ralph.
Yes, good morning to your world. How are we all? I hope you're all rocking and rolling and you're enjoying life, because that's what life is all about. We are going to inspire you big time today, because we have got a chap on the show who I actually wanted really before the show was even a thought in my head. He was a name that I wanted to get on the show because his ethos, his work ethic really ties into what I would like to do with my life and what so many of you listening want to do with your life. He's a man who believes that we should all have freedom in our life, and most importantly, can show us how to do it. He's become one of the most sought after speakers and thought leaders on this subject in the world. But how has he done this? How has he created freedom? How has he designed his life so that he can focus in on the things that light him up inside instead of getting wrapped up in the things that don't? Well, he specialises in creating extremely profitable cash flow streams and businesses that work without compromising your lifestyle. He ensures that he has the cash flowing, which then allows the choices that make up a life of freedom. And doesn't that sound good? So let's get on to the show to start joining up the dots of his life so he can go back to his life of freedom. The one and only Mr. Ryan Daniel Moran. How are you, Ryan?
David, thanks so much for having me, man.
It is lovely to have you on, and as I was saying, it's been a little bit of a search and adventure, sort of lassoing you onto the show at last, because you have been on my radar for many moons. It's like one of the first names that I sort of reached out to. So thank you so much for being on.
Well, I like to be elusive, David. So, you know what they say in dating, never let them have too much. So, I try to distance myself so that you want me even more, David. That was the intention there.
So is this going to be like speed dating? Do I need to sort of really seduce you in a very short period of time?
That's it. Well, I mean, we have different accents, so I think there's already a connection here. So that's coming loud and clear to your listeners.
Well, you've got a very deep, manly voice, and have you always had that deep, manly voice, even when you was a small child?
Yes, when I came out of the womb, I said to the doctor, he spanked me, and I was like, excuse me, please don't touch me there. So, yes, my whole life.
And was it something that sort of set you apart when you was at school? Because when I went through school, there was that kind of embarrassing bit when people's bodies were changing and you would sort of go into the changing rooms for sort of, as we call it, PE. I suppose you call it sports or whatever out there. And there would be some kids who were like full-grown men, and then there was others who were like small children. And I was like a kind of Asian girl, basically. I hadn't hit any of the points in any shape or form. And so were you one of these annoyingly hairy, deep-voiced kids when you were like 12-year-old that I would have hated?
I've never been asked this on a podcast before, David.
We go in areas. We go in different areas.
We're going in all kinds of weird places. I was a late bloomer, actually, but I think I hit 13 and hair just appeared everywhere on my body. So I'm known for my beard, my ability to grow. I can turn around and have a full beard, David. So I was a late bloomer, but I think I made up for lost time.
Does it amaze you, while we're on this weird subject, because I've got this...
While we're talking about puberty, what else?
And I'm always amazed that bald men are incredibly hairy on their bodies. And I've got this theory on this, Mr. Moran, and I'm going to share this theory with you.
Please do, David.
I think, and this is going to be absolutely spot on, so you will get doctors phoning you up saying, yes, he's right on this, he is absolutely right. I think all your hair grows from your feet. And so it shoots up through your body. And the people that have hair flowing from their head big time are generally free from hair on their body. But the ones where it sprouts out, the hair kind of gives up the fight and goes, I can't be bothered to get to the head. I'll just come out here. So I think all the hair comes from the bottom. And that's why bald people are naturally like bears, and hairy head people are absolutely clean shaven.
Well, that is bad news for me, David, because that means I have a very bald future. But while we're talking about this, I actually traced my genotype in high school and found out that I'm probably not going to be bald. So I might be a wrench in your theory, but we won't find out for another 2 decades or so.
And I can always edit you out anyway, so that makes no difference to my theory at all. It's still going to go out there, and people are going to be talking about this for years. I promise you, it's the way to go. But you have really, cutting to the chase, you've got one of those lives that is kind of perfect, isn't it? In today's day and age, when we're all sitting on buses and trains and we're going to jobs that we don't like because it's a job, and we're justifying our time in the office more than the work making us want to be there. You've got a life of freedom, and it is one of those annoying lives that I look at and I go, why not me? Why not me?
Well, David, I believe that we're all creating our lives on a constant basis. Like we all have the ability to design our lives. We're all doing it all the time. I mean, I like to say that we are constantly choosing. Constantly, we are choosing to continue things going on in our life or to do something differently. So if you are in a relationship that doesn't serve you, but you continue to choose that, that is what you've chosen. If you're in a job that you hate, you know, we are constantly choosing that. I was trying to date this girl once who was in a 9-to-5 job, and she was like, look, not everybody can just pick up and leave and do what you do. And I was like, well, sure you can. Everybody can. You just choose not to, which is, it's true. Everything that we're doing, we're constantly choosing. So I believe that if we want to make changes in our life, all we have to do is choose differently. And if we look at it that way, there's some freedom in it. You don't have to do anything that you don't want to do, and you can do whatever you do want to do. It's just a matter of choice. And if something doesn't serve you, all we have to do is choose differently. So I have been intentional about what I am choosing, and there are things that I choose and things that I do not choose, and as a result, I live a life that I've chosen. I've created a life that I have designed, and we're all doing it. We're all living a life that we've designed, and we've designed it, based on our experiences and opportunities that come our way. But we're all designing the type of lifestyle that we want, and we all have that ability. So when you say I have this perfect life, I kind of giggle because it's just the one I've designed, whereas everyone is living the life that they have designed, and if they want to see change, all we have to do is design it differently.
I agree with that totally. Absolutely, 100%. You are preaching to the converted. But that girl who you were dating, are you still dating her now?
I'm not. That was a couple years ago.
Because that kind of comment, I know, because I say those same things to my wife, would have annoyed that girl big time. Because people can't see that they can create that reality until they actually start doing it, can they? You see it time and time again where people go, oh, I can't do this because of that, I can't do that. And so when you're saying what you said to her, you're choosing not to do it, although it's absolutely true, I bet she got wound up by it.
Oh, yeah, she was super annoyed. That's why I'm no longer dating her, David. That and the excessive hair. But what I was trying to communicate to her was that she's making choices, and it was fine for her to make that choice, for her to be in a steady 9-to-5 job. I just wanted her to see that that's what she was choosing, and she got that. But when she said, not everybody can up and leave and travel like you do, it was very important to call out the fact that she was wrong. Yeah, anybody can. It's just a matter of what things you're choosing. And some people choose security instead of freedom, which I think is a totally backwards way to think about it, because security is not a real thing. There's no such thing as security. But most people choose security over happiness, over freedom. In fact, I read a statistic recently that said that most people, when asked, would choose security over happiness. They would rather be secure, financially secure, than happy. Well, I mean, you don't have to choose one or the other, but most people pursue this thing called security, and it's not a real thing, so they never find it. And those who pursue security never find it, but those who pursue opportunity and freedom get both. And I really want people to see that they're responsible for the results that show up in their lives. And in order to get different results, all we have to do is plant new seeds. We just have to design things differently, and we get different results.
I'm totally onto that. Totally onto that. When was this this thought, this realization come? When did it come to you? Has it always been there? Have you always been somebody that's gone, yes, I can create my own reality? Because most of us growing up, we get sucked into a path of other people's making, and we go into jobs because we think it's the job for us, even though it doesn't naturally play to our strengths. Were you different from that? Have you always, called the shots in your own life?
I knew I always wanted to call the shots in my own life. And even when I was a kid, rather than going to parties and like doing things that all the cool kids did, I was reading real estate investment books and business books in my free time. That's what I did for fun. But I didn't really quite fully get this concept until I was 22 years old, and I went through a really difficult time. And in that time, my business started to suffer, my relationship suffered, my physical health suffered, and I realized that I had spent all of this time trying to build this lifestyle that I thought once I had it would be perfect. I thought once I had freedom, then everything would be fun and easy. So I became obsessed with ways that you could earn an income without having to trade your hours for dollars. But what really happened was that I became a slave to trying to grow and earn more and more and more and more and more without ever answering the question of what do I want my life to look like? And without answering that question, then you're always a slave. If you don't have an idea of what you want your life to look like, then you are a slave to trying to build a vision that doesn't exist. You are serving a master that does not exist. And as a result of going through that process, I after going through about a year and a half of being depressed, unhappy, out of shape, and bored, I realized that I had just designed this lifestyle for myself without having an idea of what I really wanted it to look like. So it was then that I became intentional about designing things differently, and I started to really understand how life and happiness work. So no, I was not always that way. It took going through a hard road in order to get there.
So what was it about your life that was going, as we say in the United Kingdom, pear-shaped back in those days? Well, why was it not going on the path that you wanted, and your physique and your health and all those things were suffering at one time? Can you pinpoint any of that?
I think it was a mindset thing where I thought that once I reached a certain point, once I reached a certain level, then I would be happy, I would be fit, I'd be complete. I'd have this perfect life that existed in my mind. And I realized that doesn't exist unless you create it. Nobody just magically gets what they want. They have to go earn it. They have to first be very clear about what it is that they want, and then design a lifestyle that supports them being able to get it. And I just did not do a good job of really defining what it is that I wanted, of what really excited me. And I had to become really intentional about having that in place and being able to work towards that.
And how do you do that? Because the tagline to the show, and this is a theme that I talk about all the time because it fascinates me, this does, and it wasn't part of the show when it started, but after 150 shows, it seems to be almost a truth running through all of them, that most people who are looking for this passion, where they say, find your passion and you'll never work again, will pretty much want to punch you in the face because they can't see the passion. And
right.
Oh, when you find it, you will find it. Oh, just show it to me. And they can't quite get it. Now, it seems to me from talking to so many people that the real passion in life is the things that you would do if you weren't being paid for it. And if we look back to the time when we weren't being paid for anything, that was generally when we were a child. And so if you look back to your younger self, the things that you did when you ran home from school and you laid on the sofa drawing or writing or reading or building or whatever, you can take that to where you are now. So it seems to me, and I'm only guessing at this, but from listening to you, one of the things that you liked to do was build stuff. And now you are building a life of freedom and you're designing things. Would that be kind of true? Were you one of those kids that liked to use Lego bricks and those kind of things as a kid?
I actually was not. I ran away from building things. I even as a kid, that manifests itself today because I can't even screw in a light bulb. I don't know how to do that. So no, I was not one of those kids. I was one of those kids that was more interested in ideas. I wanted to talk about ideas. I wanted to talk about concepts. I was a deep thinker right out of the womb. So the idea of building businesses was exciting to me because it all existed. I got to create it in my head. I was a creator, not a builder. I was a thinker, not a builder. I do appreciate your point about, most people who don't know what their passion is want to punch everybody in the face who says you just follow your passion, because I've struggled with that myself. And I found that, I don't have one all-consuming passion that I want to do all the time. And in fact, I'm very jealous of those people who have that one thing that they just want to surf all day, or they just want to snowboard all day, or they just want to do stand-up comedy all day, or whatever it is. I don't have that. I more have things that I'm really strongly interested in that I participate in as much as possible. And that's what makes me feel alive. That's what makes me feel energized. But I don't have an all-consuming passion. I more am in line with what Tim Ferriss says about life is not about being safe. It's about being able to be free to do what excites you. And that will change about every 6 months. So I personally have to be very intentional about putting things in my life that really excite me and to be consistently focused on growth. I think that there might be, and this is just me speculating, I don't have any data to back this up, but there might be two different types of people. People who have passions that they just want to do all day, and then growth-minded people. Us growth-minded people, that would be me, tend to get bored with doing just one thing for the rest of their lives. That doesn't sound so good. We want to be growing and expanding and trying new things and testing new waters and charting new territories and doing all this. That's me. And then there's people who just want to do one thing all day and have their lives paid for so that they can surf. And both are fine. But I think there's a lot of people who try to peddle this idea of follow your passion, follow that one thing, whereas maybe half the world doesn't think that way. We want to be growth-minded. So for those people, I say we just got to get started in a direction, in any direction. Craft out the life that you want to live. Let's start moving you in a direction for a business that pays for that type of a life. And then other stuff is going to come up. 6 months from now, your life is going to be completely different because you'll have moved in a new direction. You'll have new people in your life. You'll have new opportunities coming up. And I don't think, so I resonate with your idea of this idea of following your passion being a little bit overblown.
I still think, though, that you are somebody, when you was a kid, you was a deep thinker and a deep voiced child. And now you're pretty much exactly the same. You're still, looking for those things, and you can hear it in your voice. It's the kind of the abstract side of life that appeals to you more than the structure.
Sure, that's absolutely true. And if your point is that we tend to be an expansion of those things that drove us as kids, I will agree with you on this 100%.
Good, I've got you. Yeah. I am the host, and I've swung you in my way. That's what it's all about.
You jerk.
And I would have taken the next 45 minutes to get my point on that one. That would have been the end of the show. So
from now on, I just agree with you on everything. Then
that's the way we do it. It's called marriage. No, actually, that's probably wrong. Let's play a little speech, and this is for something that I've been throwing onto the show recently, and I love this, and I just want to get your spin on it. This is something that Jim Carrey said recently, and you probably have heard it, and it's gone viral because you kind of don't expect Jim Carrey to say these kind of things. And when I first heard it, I thought, I'm having this, and I'm going to put this on the show because it really says what I want the world to understand. And I want Ryan Daniel Moran to really listen to this and give his feelings on this. So this is Jim Carrey.
My father could have been a great comedian, but he didn't believe that was possible for him. And so he made a conservative choice. Instead, he got a safe job as an accountant. And when I was 12 years old, he was let go from that safe job. And our family had to do whatever we could to survive. I learned many great lessons from my father, not the least of which was that you can fail at what you don't want. So you might as well take a chance on doing what you love.
Isn't that powerful?
Beautiful. That is beautiful. I mean, I couldn't agree more. I think the thing that holds people back from taking a chance on what they do love is this idea of security. This idea that at some point they will have reached a level in which they're now safe. They're now secure. And we've shown psychologically that line just moves. You know, you can have $1 million in the bank and still feel unsafe. Nobody wants $1 million in the bank. They want the emotions that come with that. And I think that one of the ways that we can solve this problem is if we just were able to unhook this connection between the amount that we work and the amount that we think that we're worth. Meaning, I think if we were able to untie this connection of our hours, trading our hours for dollars, then we can start to see the matrix, right? We start to see the light. We start to see the world for what it really is, which is that we're constantly creating our lives. And I call this doing it through a freedom business, a income stream or a business that is not tied to the amount of hours that you put into it. And if we're able to flip the script and unhook this connection between how hard we work and how much money we make, then all of a sudden we realize that we can have opportunity and security and do the things that we want to do, going after the things that we love, and not have to worry about making the conservative choice, as Jim Carrey put it.
That's an amazing point. And I was trapped in that for years and years and years, especially when I was working up in the city of London and I was doing a job that basically I went there and I did nothing, but I earned an awful lot of money. And I started to now I look back on it, I started to self-sabotage because I couldn't justify why I was earning this money. So basically I was going out lunchtime and getting drunk and stuff and then coming back and doing my work. And I look back on it and I think, oh, that's so unprofessional. Why was I doing that? And now, because I'm doing these shows on a daily basis and I hear the same kind of commonalities, I think it was just that I couldn't get it in my head that they were paying me this money to do nothing, really. And now I'm doing this, which for so many people would say he's still doing nothing. He's just having a conversation on the mic. But it's a different kind of mindset. Now I think to myself, yeah, if this brought me in a squillion pound a day because I'm providing this content, I would just think, well, bring it on. Bring it on. I don't mind that. I will do this content, take my squillion pound, and I will go down and sit in the garden for a while a little bit later and just sort of count my money. It's a total mindset, and your theories all the way along all tie to mindset and now beliefs that have been programmed into us from God knows when by our mums and dads who didn't have the opportunities of us, so they had to go to work. They didn't have the ability to create income streams that work when we're asleep like we have, but we're still trained into that 9 to 5, 9 to 5, 9 to 5, get on the train, get home, couple of hours sleep, go to bed, 9 to 5, 9 to 5. And it's just madness, isn't it?
I think it is madness, especially when the opportunities to do something differently are so dang abundant. I mean, the opportunities and the income streams that are everywhere. I mean, you just open up your eyes and see them, and we realize that we don't have to go down that path at all. We don't have to do that whole experience that you just laid out. All we have to do is create value. I believe that Jim Rohn is right when he says that we are compensated for the value that we bring to the marketplace. Now, it can take time to provide value, but we're not compensated for the time. We're compensated for the value that we bring to the marketplace. And I would go one step further, and I would say it feels good to provide value to the marketplace. It feels good to operate from a place of contribution. So if we were simply to ask a better question and ask, how do I provide value to the marketplace around this area that I am excited about or interested in or passionate about, then we have a completely different conversation happening. We just ask a little bit of a better question. And the opportunities today with things like this thing called the internet make it possible for you to create value around any topic or interest without you having to sacrifice security and without you having to trade your opportunity for something that you might view as more comfortable. I think the only thing that allows you to be safe is when you can know that you can continue to provide value no matter what life throws at you. And if you start to train your brain to look for opportunities to provide value, you will always have opportunity, you will always have security, and you will always be free to pursue the things that you actually love.
So somebody's sitting listening to this conversation and they are inspired to take control of their life. They're listening to you, they're listening to me, they're listening to all the other Join Up Dots episodes. What's the best way for them to start going about it? Because, you know, they have been in the rat race for years and years and years. They want to do something new, but for many people, they think it's too late, which I keep on saying it's never too late, as it's never too early either. I've been having chats with people who are like 7 years old and creating their first business, you know, unbelievable. What's the best way for them to actually loosen that sort of mud that's around them, that's holding them into a position, and break free from those limiting mindsets?
I'm actually going to address the person who thinks that it's too late, because I think that the older generation, if you will, my generation kind of gets that there's stuff you can do outside of a 9 to 5. We're starting to get that. That change is already happening. For people who are not in my generation, I actually think they have an advantage. They just need to have their eyes opened a bit. The reason they have an advantage is because they're more valuable to the marketplace. The people in my generation don't have 20 years of skill sets built up. People in my parents' generation have 25, 30 years of experience contributing value to a marketplace. So I would just encourage them to ask the question, where is the majority of your value coming from? Where's the value that you put into the marketplace? Where is that stemming from? You know, for people who have been in the corporate world, they're paying you for something. They're paying you for some value that you're bringing to the marketplace. So what is that value? And if you were to only focus on that, or if you were able to tie that skill or that ability into a industry that you actually enjoy, now you're able to think about, okay, how do I provide value into the marketplace while also focusing on something that I actually enjoy? So again, I'm belaboring the point. I'm beating this dead horse mercilessly. But if we can train our brains to start to look for opportunities to provide value, then we'll always have opportunity. We'll always have the ability to follow what we love.
Here. So let's take us back in time, because I'm fascinated. I've been doing a bit of stalking about you, and there's certain things that kind of fascinate me. One of the things was your sort of improv. You were into that sort of improvisational kind of world when you was in your business world as well, and it seems like one was an escape from the other. Is that true, or am I just sort of simplifying it?
Yeah. So that might have been true 4 or 5 years ago for me. For me now, I believe more in integrating life. So for me, I know that I feel most alive when I am up on a stage. I know that. So about 1.5 years ago, I shut down a business that didn't allow me to spend time doing what I liked. I was doing mostly stuff I hated doing. And life's too short for that. You know, we're all going to die one day, so we don't have time to do stuff that we don't like doing. So I shut that business down, and I started new income streams and new activities that allowed me to be a fuller expression of myself. So when I do things like improv, or when I speak to a group of 3,000 Amazon sellers like I did this past weekend, or when I put up a video on YouTube and send it out to my subscriber list, they're all fueling that same desire in myself to be up in front of people, to be extroverted, to be providing value. All of those are serving that same desire, even if they are done a little bit differently or they serve a slightly different audience. So in my business, I know that I provide the most value when I am creating and when I am talking in a public forum, like what we're doing right now. And so I know that I only need to focus on that, and everything else can be outsourced, or everything else comes secondary. So I'm able to run a business that isn't all about me, but I get to do it in a way where I'm focusing on the things that make me feel filled up. And I think that gets lost a little bit when people start to create their own businesses, where they take out of the question, where do they provide the most value? And all of a sudden they start doing things for money, which is the reason they left the corporate world in the first place. They left the paycheck because they didn't want to be tied to somebody else's dime. But now we've traded it, and now we're running businesses that don't make us feel fulfilled. So I think unless we are intentional about focusing on the things that we are providing value and things that we do that actually light us up, then it's easy to lose that.
And so with you designing your own life, in your life of freedom, why did you design a business which you ultimately didn't like?
Well, this was a few years ago, and to be honest with you, I was not intentional. I learned these lessons as a result of making a whole lot of mistakes. And one of those mistakes was the result of in choosing the money, choosing the security over the opportunity and things that I actually enjoy. And it took a lot of self-reflection to shut down a business that I had so much invested in and was making so much profit from. But I ultimately did that because I was not finding enjoyment or passion or fulfillment in that. But most importantly, I didn't feel like I was providing my most value. And again, it feels good to provide value. So I shut that down and took life in a different direction.
I love talking to you because it's like it's like listening to a deep voice Yoda kind of thing, where train we must.
That was very good.
Thank you. I've been practicing. It was supposed to be Scooby Doo, but hey, we're so let that go. But there's so much kind of knowledge built up in your young body. I assume you've got a young body. I'm on Skype, so I don't know. But is that something that has been built up by sort of knocks and falls and stumbles and successes, or is it kind of something that's always been there? Have you taken a lot of that sort of knowledge from your parents and your peer group growing up, or is it just by the sort of life that you've led?
Knocks and falls they are. Knocks and falls they were. Yes. There's deep voice Yoda for you.
That's going to be my ringtone from now on.
I think that a lot of that has come from just making incredibly difficult mistakes. And if you want to live an extraordinary life, then it is not safe. You will get bumps and bruises and hurts along the way. It's part of the ride. You don't learn to ride a bike without scraping your knee. Now, you can choose not to ride the bike, or you can learn to ride the bike and know that it's gonna hurt every once in a while. I water ski, and I didn't learn to water ski without falling. You're gonna fall. Now, I could stay in the boat and not learn to water ski. Or I can water ski knowing that there's going to be bumps and bruises along the way. Living an extraordinary life is exactly the same. Starting a business is exactly the same. You are going to make mistakes. You are going to look back and go, I was an idiot. Dating is this way. Dating is hard because people get hurt and people get emotional. But you could be alone for the rest of your life, or you could get into the game knowing that there's going to be times when you get beat up and spit on and feel like hell. It is like that with anything that is worthwhile. The goal in life is not to be safe. It's the biggest lie that we have. It's the biggest lie that we've built for ourselves in society, which is why I think it is a total travesty that we have a trend in government right now built to try and keep us more and more safe. And I don't mean safe from outside attackers or safe from intruders. I mean safe financially, safe economically. It's not the point of life. The point of life is to do what excites you and to contribute and to experience and to appreciate your own existence. And we don't get that by being comfortable. We get that by making a whole bunch of mistakes so we know what to do the next time.
So you've been pushing the envelope for, the last 10, 15, 20 years or whatever, as you progress through. Have you got any sort of points? We call it the big dot. When you look back and you kind of go, yes, I can really see where Ryan started to become who he is now. It was probably a really bad time in your life, or generally the big dot ties up. I've had conversations with people that have said to me, I was in a car and I was just about to commit suicide. And for some reason, I changed my mind. And I say to them, was that your big dot? And they say, yes. Not only was it a big dot, but it was my best and worst day ever. My worst day because I got to that lowest point, but my best day because I've been on the up since then. And people can pinpoint those. Have you got any, I wouldn't want to sort of say, have you ever been in a car trying to commit suicide? But have you got these kind of moments that you look back and you go, yeah, that was a really terrible time in my life. But thank God for that now. With hindsight, that was the making of me.
Oh, 100%. And mine wasn't a moment or a specific day. It was a time period. It was a time period about 4 years ago where I didn't know if I could go on. I felt as though I felt like the world's biggest failure at 22 years old with $250,000 in the bank. I felt like I was just this ultimate failure, and everybody looked at my situation and was like, "What the hell is wrong with you? I mean, you have money in the bank, you are in a great relationship, you have this deep, unbelievable voice, and you got all this body hair." Like what? Why do you think that you're a failure? And I would think because I'm not happy. I'm just so unhappy. I am so completely exhausted by being this unhappy. I am so lonely. I am so out of shape. I feel like a zero. And that was very difficult to go through that time. And also the most self-enlightening process you could possibly imagine for becoming the person that I am today. So it wasn't one moment. It was a difficult time period, but I think it is very rare that that level of self-awareness comes outside of a time of great pain. I think you have to go through a time of great pain in order to become self-aware enough to really live an extraordinary life.
Because I've never had true pain in my life. And I really have floated like a twig on the mighty stream of life through just good times, basically. And even when I look back on it and I go, yeah, that was a bit rubbish, it wasn't really compared to other people. It was just, I didn't have any sort of benchmark about what rubbish was. So I've been very, very fortunate. And I think in my sort of side, one of the things that I'm doing here, I'm becoming more aware through other people. I'm hearing their stories, and that's pushing me on to create this world for myself, this life, which I don't think if I wasn't having these conversations, I would have been able to do, because I couldn't see the possibilities that are out there. I've never hit bottom.
Well, you brought up an interesting thing, which is that you're having a similar shift as a result of listening to other people. And science actually confirms that can happen, because there's this biological hack, which is that we are constantly comparing ourselves to the people around us. So if you want to get in shape, one of the best things that you can do is just hang around people who are in really, really good shape. If you want to get out of shape, the fastest way to do that is hang around people who are really out of shape. Eating cheese fries is a lot easier when you're hanging around people who are eating cheese fries all the time, and eating kale is a lot easier when you're around people who are eating kale all the time. So there is actually a biological basis for what you're talking about. By getting around other people and having different ideas come into our brain, we actually start to adjust. We actually start to turn up the heat or turn up the air conditioning in our brains and align with those around us. So by surrounding yourself with people who are either at the level you're at, or at the level you want to be, or going in that way, we can actually biologically train ourselves to follow suit.
Now that's fascinating, isn't it? I'm having probably 6 or 7 of these conversations a day. I churn out these shows because I've got a fear that I'm going to be hit by a bus or something, and then my 7 days a week show won't go live. So I like to have them in a sort of a big bank ready to go live. And every single person is talking, and there's moments in those conversations that I lead it, but there's those moments, those gems, when they are sharing something, they're sharing deep. And it's those threads that are running through that are really pushing me on. And
Sure.
I just never had that before, because I was always in an office where you would say to people, "You all right?" And they would go, "Would be if I wasn't here," or "Oh, it'd be all right when it's Friday," and "Yeah, if they paid me more money." And it was that kind of negative vibe around you, even though I've naturally been a positive person. But in this world, this recording studio that I've set up where I'm talking to you guys, I've never had one person in any show that has basically said, "Yes, life is rubbish and I hate being on this show and you're rubbish and everything's rubbish." It just doesn't happen. So it's kind of pushing me on. It's pushing me on to sort of create this amazing life for myself, which just couldn't have been done. And I know it couldn't have been done. So I'm incredibly grateful that I'm able to have these conversations. And I'm incredibly grateful that you confirm what I feel is going on in me at the moment, but I couldn't quite understand it.
Yeah, you're having your barometer reset a bit. You're starting to see what's possible. You're starting to compare yourself and your experience against something different. Now, that's all our brains know how to do, is compare. I mean, what is success? Whatever you're comparing it to. What is fit? Well, whatever you're comparing it to. They're all constructs in our brain. It's all the brain knows how to do. In fact, they did a study on happiness, and they found that all that happiness is the difference between your expectation and your reality. It's a comparison. The guy who gets second place in the Olympics, most people would say, "Wow, what an incredible experience, what an incredible accomplishment." But if his whole life he's compared himself against the people who are gold medal winners, he's going to be pretty disappointed. He won't be happy with that. So that all our brains know how to do is compare. So what's happening with you is your brain is starting to compare itself differently. Biologically, there's a change going on because you're starting to reset what you were traditionally comparing yourself to on a regular basis. It used to be you were the happiest guy in the office, so you must be happy. Today, you're starting to think, man, I was in the corporate world for this long. There's all these people doing all these cool things. I guess I want to make some changes. That's what's going on, because the brain is always making comparisons.
Can you see that when you walk into Starbucks and places? Can you see people that you can think, yeah, they're going through the change? Because I feel like I can now, and I can see people like Coiled Springs, and I think, yeah, it's not going to be long. It's not going to be long, and then you're going to have a leap of faith or whatever. And it's just like I've got different lenses in my eyes that are seeing a world of, I suppose it's when you say you see opportunities and stuff which you don't see previously. But can you do the same?
I hear it in people's language. I hear it when people are trying to run towards something that is very elusive. I hear it when people are using words like safe and secure. And I hear it when people are trying to make decisions about something that they think is right in their head, but they don't really desire it. For example, I had a friend message me who was trying to decide if she wants to go to medical school. And she does not want to go to medical school. She does not want to go. But she cannot give herself the permission to not go to medical school. And when I hear that type of language, I know that somebody's going through the change. But I can't quite say that I can do it by just looking at people in Starbucks. So you might have a gift there, David.
Or maybe I'm going slightly insane. I don't know.
It could be it, David.
Because one of the things about Starbucks I don't get is, why do they ask your name when you go in there now? What's all that about?
Well, funny story. I recently went to Starbucks, and they gave me I told them my name was Ryan, and they wrote on the cup Ryan. Who in the world spells Ryan Ryan? Well, I guess that's why that person is not an entrepreneur. I don't think they're going to be even writing on cups for very much longer.
Because what I've always wanted to do is go into Starbucks and secretly go up to everyone and go, look, when they ask your name, just say it's Spartacus. So when they say, is there Spartacus, we can go, I'm Spartacus, and the whole office.
Kid you not, I have done that.
Have you?
You and I are twins.
Oh, we are. You're the first person. I thought I'd made that thought up myself. So I'm connected by some kind of weird, hairy kind of, I don't know, connection with you.
Very good. Well, I've done it too.
So what was it like when you did that?
A very freeing, profound experience.
Because the other one that I used to do was when I go into McDonald's, you know, when you sort of order what you want and then they always ask you if you want anything else. And that always used to sort of wind me up because I used to think, no, why wouldn't I just ask for that? You know, why wouldn't I ask for the apple pie if I wanted the apple pie? So I used to say, oh, can I have a Big Mac and fries, please? And they used to say, anything else? And I go, yeah, a completely blank stare, please. And that used to work quite well as well. I got great amusement out of that for many, many years. Did you
steal that one from you?
Yeah, absolutely. So with your life now, where are you aiming towards? Where are you? Because as I say at the beginning, and you giggled, it seems like the perfect life. And it seems a life now that you are really enjoying and you're doing the things that light you up inside. So how can you increase that light? What are you aiming for in your life?
Now, what I'm aiming for now is to be able to contribute value even more than I already am now. And looking at how can I spread my message in a way that impacts even more people than it is now. And how can I invest in companies that I believe in so that they can expand even more than I am now. And how can I be involved in passions and things that interest me even more than I am now. And that is that's life for me, David, where it is, how do I continue more of the good stuff, even more than I am now, even if it requires taking some risk. And along the way, when certain opportunities come up that I'm really excited about, how do I participate them and play full out? And when changes come and when winter comes, how do I enjoy the process even though it's painful and it's difficult? So I don't think there's ever a point in which you arrive. I think we've missed the point if we believe that there's a time in which you arrive. I believe more that we are constantly growing. We're constantly growing rather than this point where we strive and strive and strive and then we have arrived. I think there is only a journey. There is no destination.
Let's play some words that really sort of emphasizes that logic on that. This is Steve Jobs, and he made a speech back in 2005, which is integral to this show. I'm going to play this, and I just want to get your flavor on this. This is Steve Jobs.
Of course, it was impossible to connect the dots looking forward when I was in college, but it was very, very clear looking backwards 10 years later. Again, you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect them looking backwards. So you have to trust that the dots will somehow connect in your future. You have to trust in something, your gut, destiny, life, karma, whatever. Because believing that the dots will connect down the road will give you the confidence to follow your heart even when it leads you off the well-worn path. And that will make all the difference.
What do you get from those words, Ryan?
Well, I agree with him. I think we have to have faith in something that it's going to lead to a better way. Otherwise, we get lost in the ups and downs that happen every day. I like to say that the longer vision of success that you can have, the more successful you will be. If we look at things like the stock market, the stock market goes up and down every day. But if you look at it over 10 years, it tends to go up. If you look at it over 50 years, we have an even more successful trend. So I agree with what Steve says, especially in the sense of if we believe that we are on a constant trend up, rather than getting lost in the day-to-day wins and losses, that we put ourselves in the best position to win.
And do you have faith in yourself that it is going to come true? As he's saying, you've got to have belief, you've got to have faith, it's karma or whatever. Do you see that as truths in your life as well?
You used a magic word, which is faith. If I can dodge your question ever so strategically, I would say that I have a belief that I'm on a path that continually gravitates up. And that even if today is a down day, I believe that I am headed in the right direction.
How do you know that, though? Is it just from experience that you've built up, and you've seen the ups and the downs, and you've seen the efforts you've put in that have worked, and you've seen when you haven't put the efforts in and you got those rewards that weren't as good as you wanted? Is that how you actually know that is on the up?
No, I know that because I know that I am constantly improving myself, and I am constantly open to going in new directions when they open up. And I believe that I am planting the right seeds. So like our life today is just the result of seeds that we planted long ago. So if we want to have different results, all we have to do is plant different seeds. All we have to do is water a different seed. If you are doing things that you don't enjoy doing, but you continue to do them, you are watering that seed. It's not until we stop watering that seed and start watering something else that we can make a change that really benefits us. And, we all make the best decisions that we know with the information that we have at the time. And I believe that I continue to acquire more information and continue to work on myself first. And as a result, I'm on a trend up.
I think you've changed my life there. Do you know, I'm going to look at everything I do and assess what I like doing and what I don't like doing. And
well, it's going to be very obsessive for about the next 24 hours. You'll be washing your hands. Is this watering the seed that I want to water?
Was that an English accent you did there, sir?
That was the best I got.
It was pretty good. I recognised it. Just before we say goodbye to you, I've got one question that I'm going to hold till just afterwards. But we're going to send you back on the in time like a young Marty McFly. And this is the part of the show we call the Sermon on the Mic. And I'm going to play the theme tune, and you're going to be transported back in time. And if you did get the opportunity to have a one-on-one with the young Ryan, what kind of age would you choose, and what would you say to them? So this is the Sermon on the Mic. Ooh,
here we go with the best bit of the show, the Sermon on the Mic, the Sermon on the Mic.
I'm going to address the 18-year-old Ryan. Hey, buddy, listen. You are about to embark on an adventure that you can't quite see right now, and you don't need to see it right now. And along the way, you're going to incur about every bump and every bruise that you could possibly have. And times you're going to doubt yourself, because the world loves to stay in their bubble, and you're going to try and break out of that bubble, and your family is going to question it. And your friends are going to question it, and people are always going to wonder what the heck you're up to. And I just want you to know that you don't have to compare yourself to them. The only person you have to compare yourself to is the person that you were yesterday. And I don't mean that in terms of how much money is in the bank. I don't mean that in terms of how deep your voice is. I don't mean that in terms of what people think of you. I mean that in terms of, are you producing more value and impacting more people today than you were yesterday? If the answer is ever no, then it's time to make a change. It's also time to make a change if you ever find yourself continuously dissatisfied with the way that you are spending your time. If you feel that one day, it's not a big deal. But if you continuously experience that, it's time to make a change. Don't be afraid to feel the big emotions, and don't be afraid to take big risks, because that's how you're going to grow. But remember one thing. Relationships are all that matter. Relationships are all that everyone is trying to strive for. You think you want money and influence right now. What you really want is deep connection. You think that you want to be big and important, but what you really want is deep connection. That's what we're all looking for. So give that to people when the opportunities present itself, and go continue changing the world. I love you, buddy.
I enjoyed that. I listened intently, and it's true. It's absolutely true. So I hope the young Ryan was listening. How can people connect with you?
Yeah, I think the best way for people to connect with me is I have a podcast where I give away all my secrets. We talk about where I'm investing. We talk about the businesses that I'm in. We talk about designing your lifestyle, and that's at Freedom Fastlane. And the blog is called freedomfastlane.com. And if you like that concept that we talked about planting seeds and continually watering the seeds that are going to produce fruit, then you want to look at the 10-day challenge on freedomfastlane.com. It's 10 days. Do one little thing for 10 days, and as a result, you'll be watering the seeds that you need to be on the Freedom Fastlane.
Ryan, just before I let you go, the very first time I came across you was on an episode of Entrepreneur on Fire with the legend that is John Lee Dumas. And I remember listening to that, and both of you were saying that you were going to some kind of seminar or something in the Philippines, and you were going to get him to eat some disgusting, horrible egg or something. Do you remember talking about that? And did you get him to eat this disgusting piece of food?
I ran into him and I said, "Hey, John, we need to eat a balut together." And his exact words were, "Oh, that was so long ago." And he never did. I ate a balut. I've got video of it.
And he didn't
John
do
Lee
it.
Dumas did not eat the balut. He did not eat the balut.
Well, if I ever get on his show, I'm going to bring that up. I'm gonna bring that up in conversation, and I might actually
Good man.
I might actually post him one. Well, thank you so much for spending time with us today, joining up those dots, and please come back again when you have more dots to join up, because I do believe, Ryan, that by joining up the dots and connecting our past is the best way to build our futures. Ryan Daniel Moran, thank you so much.
David, thanks so much for having me.
David doesn't want you to become a faded version of the brilliant self you were once to become. So he's put together an amazing guide for you called the 8 Pieces of Advice that every successful entrepreneur practices, including the 2 that changed his life. Head over to joinupdots.com to download this amazing guide for free, and we'll see you tomorrow on Join Up Dots.